Vegans are known to have lots of energy, but very few have the kind of energy that my next guest has. Paige Parsons Roache is a vegan that is committed to not only the environment, she's committed to raising awareness about people's health and the animals. Her greatest commitment is to her daughter, who went vegan at the age of 13, and Paige followed her 6 months later. She's also a well-known figure in the Jane Unchained News Network team. She will be seen all over, well, heard all over Clubhouse. You can see her on social media, and she is a force to be reckoned with. So stick around. You're in for a great treat when I talk with Paige Parsons Roache from Jane Unchained.
Welcome to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show, where your host, Kathleen Gage, shines the spotlight on vegan and plant-based businesses and entrepreneurs from all walks of life committed to cruelty-free eating, healthy lifestyles, animal compassion, and the environment. Enjoy the show.
You know, Paige, we've known each other for a little while, and it's like we must have been sisters in another lifetime because I just adore you. I adore what you're doing, and you're out there making a difference. You're on Clubhouse a lot. You're on Facebook a lot. So let's start with giving people kind of a background and the backstory of how you got involved with being a vegan, what that means to you, and let's go from there.
Amazing. Okay, well, 6 years ago, my daughter came to me and said she was going vegan. And I said, okay, what does that mean? She said, well, I won't eat any dairy, eggs, or any animal products. And I said, okay. So I went shopping, did my normal, I left out any meat, and I brought it home, and she would turn it over and say, Mom, look, there's casein, there's whey, there's dairy, there's milk, not dairy, but milk, and eggs. And I said, oh, you got to come shopping with me then. So for 6 months, we went shopping together. We bought food. We tried different restaurants. We tried different foods. And then I said, I'm going to look into this. I said, tell me why you decide to go vegan. And I really didn't know much about veganism. I really didn't. I pretty much steered away from people who were talking animal rights at any event or anything. I just wasn't relating to that. So I sat down and watched Cowspiracy with her, a film that's called The Sustainability Secret. Now, let me back up a minute because I wear many different hats, and let me put on my other hat that I'm going to show you today, which is, Make the World Green Again, if you can see that. So I was on the plastic pollution parade. I was coming up with solutions for plastic pollution. I was marching in the streets for banning plastic bags here in the state of California. I was involved with my children's nonprofit that they were dancing for causes called Move the World. And we did a whole thing about plastic pollution. I was all about the plastic straws, changing them out. And when I sat down and watched Cowspiracy, you know what? The first thing that struck me is the amount of water that is being used to bring animal products to people's plates, including my own at the time. And so I still am all about the banning plastics, and coming up with plastic pollution solutions. But what I realized is that I could make a large, huge, ginormous difference with our planet and the survival of our planet and the impact of resources being used by going vegan. So I just decided to go get all in. Now, mind you, I had 6 months leading up to kind of get dialed into what I needed to make for my daughter. Right. And then I started eating it as well. And I thought, this isn't that hard for someone like me. And I'm not obviously trying to tell anyone who's in a situation that doesn't have access, to products and gardens and farmers markets and things like that. But to those that are out there that have accessibility, to me, it was like, oh, I can do this.
There's a lot to unwrap there. And I love what you said about and not everybody has the accessibility to the gardens, to the resources, to the foods. Because if you look at the food deserts, and a lot of people think food deserts means there's no food at all. That's not true. It means that there are a lot of fast food restaurants. It's easier to get beer and a pack of cigarettes than it is to get an apple. And it's been designed that way, which is really sad. But that's a whole different conversation. But the whole thing when you said that I knew by me going vegan, I could make a difference. Now, I want to give you some pushback on that because I've had people say to me, oh, you think you being vegan is going to change the world? And it's like, everybody who makes that decision, we are changing the world. But if somebody says to you, oh, you're one person, how can you possibly make a difference? Let's unwrap that.
Okay, I'm going to put on this other hat because when my mother passed away years ago, I have since realized that the food that could have been given to her along the way, her food choices could have made a difference with her Alzheimer's and her dementia, as well as my stepfather who passed away of heart disease. So I put this hat on because it's a nod to my mom. She gave me this hat. She said it looked really cute on me. And I was like, you know what? And she always told me that you can make an impact with everything that you do. So I know that one person, by making a change, I vote with my dollars. So everything that I purchase, the purchasing power that I have to make an impact and influence others. Now, mind you, yes, I only have, 5,000 followers personally on my, this, that, and the other, and who counts. But when I post something, I see people reacting and interacting with me. And so I also used to teach exercise classes and impact hundreds of women a week. Mm-hmm. And so when I was doing that, I would impact. Now I've moved my impact to social media on a bigger scale as well, which kind of leads me into wearing my other hat, but I'm kind of jumping ahead. So I think if we think that we don't make an impact, then we won't. But we'll think that we won't, but we really do by what we purchase. So even though we may sit back and say, oh, I can just eat what I want, when I want and how I want at this point. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. The other thing is I looked my daughter in the eyes and I thought I can no longer go on eating my selfish taste pleasures, the things that I wanted to consume, because this is a planet that I'm leaving for her.
Right. Right.
And if I continue with what I'm doing, I'm going to actually impact negatively the planet. So I'd already made a change with plastic pollution and myself, like no single-use plastics, switching out my straws, bringing my bamboo with me, doing all the things that I knew to do and supporting that. So I knew that if I made that change, I would leave a better place for her, a better planet for her and her generations and generations to come.
I love that. And I really like what you said about your mom and dad, because I actually had a conversation with somebody the other day. My mom has passed. It's been just about 10 years. And the last 2 years of her life, they literally cut pieces of her away. And to where when she died, she had so many surgeries. And I wish that I would have known then what I know now, because maybe I could have had some influence on her eating so that she wouldn't have been as ill as she was. And my dad had his first massive heart attack at the age of 41. And at that time, regardless of whether a doctor knew about nutrition, there was a lot of pressure by the dairy industry and the meat industry and the egg industry to suppress anything that would raise awareness around the connection between certain foods, saturated fat, and heart disease. And it's so evident now, and yet a lot of people don't want to hear it. And that's why I love what you do, because you are a huge voice out there in the vegan world. I remember the first time I heard you, it was on Clubhouse. And, I'm thinking, this woman is always on Clubhouse. I love it. And when I see your name in a room, I have to hop in the room just to hear what you have to say. So what is it that you're doing now, going from being a non-vegan 6 years ago to having that 6-month period of the daughter-mother bonding experience of going shopping and everything. And now you are truly a voice for the voiceless. And that's what I hope to accomplish with my 2 shows. It's like, that's why I do my shows. I want to raise awareness. So what is it you're doing today? And I know that you're really connected with a very, very influential vegan. So let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, speaking of voices for the voiceless, let me put on my other hat. So
and for those people listening and you're not watching this, you can go to YouTube and you can see all the great hats.
You can see the hats. This
are
hat
being displayed.
Right. This hat happens to be the Jane Unchained Contributors hat. So once I had been invited to participate I had gone to this VegFest event, and I was promoting plastic pollutions. We were just about to ban plastic bags in the state of California. And I met this woman up on stage. She was a dynamic woman. She's like loud and proud. I'm like watching her going, wow, I can't even believe this voice is coming out of this petite woman. And she's just unapologetic with what she's saying. And I'm like, wow, I want to be like her in my own way, in my own voice. And I went up and I introduced myself and I met Jane Velez Mitchell. Meanwhile, Lisa Carlin was right there next to her by her side. And she said, would you like to do a lunch break live? And I said, what's that? And the next thing you know, she's in my kitchen. I'm making some food. And 6 months later, Lisa had moved into a different position with Jane Unchained, working with Jane Unchained, making her own show, What's Up Docs, in plant-based nutrition. She's amazing with the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. She does a lot of work with them. And next thing you know, I'm booking and producing shows for Jane Velez Mitchell's Jane Unchained News. And I have my own show called Plant-Based in the Burbs, which is bringing people into the journey and letting them see how easy it is to cook. My partner and I, Sherry Cherie, she's a fitness expert, and we're both moms. We're empty nesters, and we love learning how to cook. She's probably a better cook than me, actually. So it's fun to show the different journey of how you can cook the food, swap out what we've been taught, what's called the SAD diet. I like to call it the standard average diet, because we're not just talking about American diet. It's standard average diet that most people are fed as we are growing up throughout the world. And that's kind of how it began. And that was 5 years ago.
Wow.
In January. And I feel so blessed that I was looking for something to do in the animal rights movement. I felt I had made the connection to pigs being transported from feedlots and from farms in these trucks where their little snouts are sticking out. They're hot and they're heated and they're going into a slaughterhouse. And I was outside witnessing, seeing them go and looking at, and they stopped and we gave them water and kindness and love with the Los Angeles Safe Movement. The Animal Safe Movement's global. And I made the connection to the animals because up to that point, my daughter's planning to be a veterinarian, right? So she's always loved animals. She's always saved every animal that we, brought home from the pet store. And she's always, worked on saving them when things happened, I have lots of stories.
It's so amazing because there is such a disconnect between what people have on their plate and really where that item comes from, whether it's a plant item or it's an animal-based item. And it always amazes me, the people who say, oh, I don't want to know because if I know it'll ruin my appetite. It's like, that's the idea. That's what we're trying to accomplish. And when I first went plant-based, I didn't identify as a vegan because I didn't want to be one of you crazy vegans. And now it's like I'm a loud and proud vegan. And it's like the louder my voice can get, the better, because there's an urgency to what we're doing. I actually recently had the opportunity to talk with Bobby Sudd, and he said the first vigil that he went on, and he went into the factory farm, he said for 3 weeks he was depressed after that because he realized what he had been contributing to in his own way, and now what he could do to make a change. So I want to remind people that this is Kathleen Gage with Vegan Visibility, and you're listening to Paige Parsons Roache. You are with Jane Unchained. You are her production manager. You're doing some amazing things within the vegan industry. And where do you see things going in the future? I know that there's a lot. Actually, I have to tell you, when I had Jane on my show, that episode got booted off of YouTube for a little while because we talked about large corporations controlling the media. And I guess, something got flagged and we got it back on. And then the very next day I got booted off of Facebook, and I thought, yay, I'm doing my job. And people were like, oh, that's awful, you're getting booted off. It's like, no, that means that I'm rocking the boat a little bit. But with all that's going on with people's health, and there is a definite connection between comorbidities and the foods we eat and complications with the big C, and I'm not talking cancer. Where do you see things going as far as people raising their awareness and taking more responsibility? And do they really do they have much of a choice? How much of a control and a thumb do corporations have on people's lives where they don't even realize what's going on?
Well, okay. So I just learned something recently. That's my dog. She's
let's see your dog. Let's bring your dog up here.
okay. Taffy.
Taffy. Oh, she's not a little
Taffy.
lap dog. Okay. Hey, Taffy. Good to see you. Oh,
she's a beautiful pitty mix. Yes,
right
she is.
on.
It's a rescue. She's beautiful. Well, let me say this. I just recently heard, and it was on Clubhouse actually, Laura Reese with Agriculture Fairness Alliance talks about how studies are showing that we are in a fiber crisis. Now, when you look up fiber, you're not going to get fiber from any kind of animal products, any flesh of an animal, or any secretions of an animal. Okay, that includes eggs, and that includes any dairy milk, right? From any of the cows, goats, any animal that we milk. So we're not getting the fiber. Where we get the fibers from the plants, the fruits, and the vegetables. And why I bring this up is because we have an issue. We have a stop issue. And those that are dealing with, like you said, comorbidity, right? With obesity, if we can even, talk about that, that's a huge crisis around the world. So if we're talking about being healthy, if we're talking about taking our health into our own hands, which we have the control to do that, to some degree, I will say, and there's lots of debates about all kinds of things that are currently happening. So what I'd like to say is that we have the power to build up our immune systems. We have the power to get the fiber into our diets and get the animal products out. We have the power to do that right now, 3 times a day plus some snacks. And most people think, but I can't. And so again, I'm speaking to those that have the choices. Now, school children are force-fed. I mean, they're literally told you got to drink this milk. Okay, so there are people who are working on initiatives to get the milk out of school systems. There are people who are on particular food subsidies programs, right, through the government that are only given certain products that they're allowed to purchase. We're working on changing those systems. We're also working on getting plant food available to people who are unable to access plant food. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, that's the way I see it. I think that, when I took on home birthing my daughter, and people might be like, oh, that's why. Well, you know what? I had one child born. My kids are in their 20s in a hospital setting, and we had a lot of situations. And I'm not saying every hospital there's complications, but there were things that could have been prevented. Let's say things have definitely changed in 20 years. My niece just had a baby in a hospital. It was very different. They brought the baby to her. She was able to spend time. There's a lot of things there. But I chose 20 years ago to have our daughter at home. We chose, and I took the power back on my body. Right. I took the power back and said, I'm the one that makes the choice of what goes in. I'm the one that has the power, and I can influence my family and hopefully my extended family as much as I can, because it is up to you out there that are listening, to make the changes for your health and for the health of the planet. Right. So, and there's also, if you want to get into spirituality, we could cover that as well. Ingesting the body parts and secretions of animals that don't want to die or don't want to be forced to give milk because their babies were taken away, or to be forced to create eggs more rapidly.
Right. I have to tell you, and I doubt that this person will even watch. You just hit on something that, and a situation happened recently, and I seriously doubt the person that did this will ever see this show, because he's definitely not vegan and he has no interest in it, I'm sure, but he's he calls himself a spiritually ascended guru type person. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting that you've given yourself that title. While we're having a conversation, he's eating eggs. We're doing a Zoom call. He's eating eggs in front of me. I had such a hard time concentrating, and I thought, there's something about the spiritual development. And again, this is a judgment. I tend to be a very judgmental person, and that's okay. That is my religion, judgment. And so I'm always practicing it. But quite seriously, it's like, when we start looking at the connection energetically of what we're putting into our body, the hate, the anger, the fear, the anxiety that the animals go through, the drugs that are put into their bodies, I would invite people to consider trying to release all that for 30 days. Just try it for 30 days and to really give it an honest go of not putting junk food into your body, but truly putting a good plant-based protocol and see what happens. You may be amazed that your meditations are deeper, your focus is better, you feel better, you're not as anxious and stressed out. I think about the whole pandemic and how there's been so many worlds turned upside down. I don't think I would have handled it with as much grace, if I was consuming animal products. But how do people get in touch with you, Paige? I want to make sure that people have a way to reach you.
For sure. Well, first of all, I want to send everybody to janeunchained.com. You can find me there. You can type in my name. You can see my post shows. There's printable, shareable, thousands of printable, shareable recipes with shows embedded, including yours.
We'll put the link down below for sure.
Yeah. And also I'm on Instagram at Paige Parsons Roache, Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, my name, Paige Parsons Roache, 3 names. Parsons is my birth name and Roache is my married name. I've been married 25 years. So those of you out there, it happens. It can happen. Takes commitment.
Well, I've been with my wife for 32 years and, that shocks me. I've been sober I'm going to be 38 years sober in November. Oh my gosh. We have so much in common. It's amazing. But, so Paige, in closing, what are your final thoughts for people? What can they do today to really be more aligned with what they say about their love of animals and the love of the planet and their love of their body? Because truthfully, a lot of people have given up. I think there's a lot of depression going on. I think, that people just feel like they don't have control. And that's where a lot of the anger seems to be coming from. So how can people take that back and really have some control over who they are and what they do and the kind of life that they create through their food choices?
Well, let me just say this. I want to make sure that you realize out there as a listener, you do not have to love animals to go vegan. Okay.
First time I've heard that. I love that. Okay.
You don't, because I got to tell you something. I'm allergic to a lot of animals. When I'm around them, I'm sneezing. It's kind of miserable. I'm rubbing my nose, my eyes. So I don't love animals, love them, but I respect them. And I believe they deserve to have a will and a life of their own. So I fight for many justices. So if you're somebody who fights for justice for anyone, for all the various people, and I say beings on the planet. Now, some people are like, plants have feelings too. Okay, well, the animals are eating the plants. So let's just take that off the table right now. Right? And what about the insects that are dying to eat the plants? Okay, then breathe. If you want to be a breatharian, by all means, go for it. Tell me how that goes. So I am committed to doing the least harm on the planet, leaving a better footprint here for the future generations. And I want to say that you can do it too. What I tell my kids is, you got this. Let's do this. Let's figure this out. And start with one meal at a time. Don't go all overwhelmed, but watch the documentaries. Start with one meal at a time, or go all in and figure out what you can swap out. So if you love a certain thing, get that tofu in there instead. If you love a certain other thing, go ahead and get some kind of a alternative egg going, or maybe a vegetarian, not vegetarian, because that's going to have that's going to have some things that are called plant-based now. You turn it around, it's got eggs or milk in it. So you got to read the labels, but go for your veggie burger was what I was trying to say. So maybe you're going to get one that's got tons of veggies and beans and lentils in there, or you want to go with one of the cool brands. Lots of new ones are out. So start one meal at a time, or go all in. Okay. If you're like me, I went all in. Watch documentaries. There's a ton of them out there. There's a new one coming out. Speaking of food deserts, called They're Trying to Kill Us. You definitely want to see that one. The End of Medicine, another powerful film coming out shortly. Eating Our Way to Extinction, also important and powerful. I just watched that in a screening. And there's What the Health, there's Cowspiracy, there's the Seaspiracy, the Sustainability Secret. And, I forgot one. What is it? Prayer for Compassion is amazing as well. So lots of documentaries. Get yourself educated. You have the power to educate yourself. We're all sitting Netflixing and chilling. So get yourself something that you can educate yourself, inform yourself, so you can have the power to take on your body and be strong and powerful going forward. That's what we need. We need resilience.
I love it. And you're going to have to raise your passion level. You're just a little too sluggish here. You know, it's like, I love it. I love your passion. I love what you're doing. And I've been talking with Paige Parsons Roache, and she is with the Jane Unchained crew, if you will. She is the production manager. And if you're watching the video, you'll see all the hats that she put on. If you're listening to this, I can assure you she has a lot of hats, and we'll probably put it in the blog post just to show images of the hats. But Paige, this has been delightful. I absolutely adore you. I just support everything you're doing. She just put her hat on that her mom gave her. And, go out, do what you're here to do, and really think about the choices that you make on a daily basis, because it does make a difference. One person can make a difference, because one person impacts two, who impacts four, who impacts eight, and on and on. So with that, Paige, thank you very much.
We are the ripple.
We are the ripple. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. And to all you out there, have a beautiful, delightful day.
Thank you so much, Kathleen.
You've been listening to the Vegan Visibility Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to get notified when the next episode is live. And we always appreciate reviews. Join us next time for more inspiration, education, and motivation to build your business one cruelty-free and healthy person at a time.